Let's do this. Let's talk some Bad Batch. As the show's finally ending next week with two-parter, actually. How long is that going to be?
I'm guessing maybe an hour total is what we'll have for that last episode. Or 2 episodes, whatever. Which I guess they could probably just combine into one, but they're going to do 2, which will be interesting. I think we've ramped up. We have 2 episodes left to go, and it feels very cohesive with these last couple, which is nice.
I think it will be jam-packed, and I think we can all but expect season 3, because is Celebration the first week of April, or is it the second week?
Yeah, it's coming up.
It's really quick here.
April, yeah, 2 weeks from now, I think, Star Wars Celebration. Which again, I'm bummed we can't go. Obviously, it's in England. I would love to have. That would be awesome, but. Oh, yeah, April 7th through 10th. So, yeah, starts next week, I guess, right? Is that,
no. Great. No, it's not next weekend. It's the weekend after.
2 weeks. 2 weeks from now. I don't know how to do math, apparently.
Dude, I'm going to guarantee Bad Batch Season 3 is going to be like one of the first things that they announce.
Definitely. And apparently, let's just jump into Star Wars news. Apparently, 2 more movies are going to be announced, or 3 more movies, something like that.
Really?
Yeah, I read something on Twitter. I see, again, this is all conjecture. We don't know. It's all rumors. But I read something on Twitter that there's going to be 3 Star Wars movies announced.
And Lord knows if they'll actually be made.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we talk about this every time. Yeah, if you go on Twitter and type in 3 Star Wars movies announced, Star Wars Celebration, there's a bunch of people reporting on it. I'm guessing maybe it'd be some kind of trilogy, whether that's a Damien Lindelof thing or Rian Johnson or whatever it is. I don't know. We don't really seem to have a clear direction of where they're going with the Star Wars brand in terms of the movies. So I'd be interested to see. Maybe they give us names or an idea of where they're going with it. But if they're announcing it at Star Wars Celebration, that would be pretty official, I would imagine. And they wouldn't do that unless they were like in pre-production or something, right? Where the scripts were written.
I don't know, because they announced a bunch of those Disney Plus projects at, I think, D23 back in 2019 or 2020, I believe. And then a lot of those projects ended up being scrapped, like Rogue Squadron or Rangers of the New Republic, for example.
That's true. What was that, 2 Star Wars Celebrations ago? 2021? Where they
I believe
like
that might have
shows. It was like Lando and
yeah.
And
and then
is Ahsoka.
Is the Lando show even happening? Like, that's another example you can add to the list. Or there was going to be a show about R2-D2 and C-3PO. Like that. There's another one that still hasn't been made.
A droid story.
Yeah, a droid story. A Christmas story, but with droids.
I think those are. Let me do a quick Google search. I think those are out much later. I want to say like 2025 or something.
Dude,
like
I don't even think that we can count Lando as even in production.
No, it's not. I don't think it is either. I think it was just like, hey, we want to do this. We have Donald Glover signed on, which, by the way, I'm cool with. Actually, now doing a quick Google search, some people are saying it's the project is dead. The Lando project is dead. So,
well, they probably quietly shelved that too. I mean, we can't trust any of these things. It's like, okay, you're announcing movies, but again, they've tailored us to not expect these projects to happen because they prematurely announce them and then they have problems and then they get canned. So yeah. I'm not sitting here drop dead excited because I truly don't believe in my heart that they're going to happen.
Yeah. And also, like, what about that Star Wars video game Eclipse or whatever?
That had a lot. There's a lot of controversy behind that too.
Yeah. And then they have this new like Star Wars open world game that's supposed to be coming out at some point, and that sounds awesome, but who knows if that'll ever get finished. Like, I'm totally for an open world Star Wars game. We have no idea whether or not we can trust that. So I guess for the time being, we'll keep reporting on this stuff, but till it actually starts to happen, like it's in production, like the Acolyte right now, we know that's happening. There's set photos leaked and whatnot. Then I'm gonna.
They could scrap that though.
They could. I mean, they just shelved the whole Batgirl movie at Warner Brothers, I think.
Mm-hmm. And that was done.
Yeah, done.
I mean, that's why I'm not really holding out any hope for the Acolyte, because it's like, yeah, you could make this entire show, but they could also still scrap it. I mean, like you just said with Batgirl. So nothing's really off the table.
To be honest, I don't have high hopes for the Acolyte. I don't know why, I just have a bad feeling about it. I've got a bad feeling about this. I do, mate. I've got a bad feeling about it.
I mean, the premise and the idea is cool. It's just the creative team behind it doesn't necessarily have me hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, what even is the premise behind it? Like a Sith coming to power in the old Republic, the High Republic or something.
A High Republic, Low Republic, Left Republic, Right Republic.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't been blown away by Star Wars content recently. Not since 2020. Mandalorian season 2 was like, mwah,
Peak.
great Star Wars. And then it's just kind of been at a steady
Mid.
level, and not bad, but not amazing. And I would love to see amazing. Like, I probably got my hopes up a little too much for like Obi-Wan, for example. And I still liked Obi-Wan a lot. There were some moments in that show that are my favorite Star Wars moments ever. However, it just left me wanting some more in certain areas. Kind of same thing with Andor. Like, it just left me wanting a little bit like different things from it, I suppose. But it's an ever moving thing that you're not going to hit the mark every single show, which is fine. Same thing can be said about Book of Boba Fett. Some of the best Star Wars moments ever, but the show as a whole just wasn't quite there for me. And by not quite there, I mean like not even close to being what I wanted it to be.
It's not even close. The two best episodes had nothing to do with him. They were all about Mando. And then you bring in Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano. It's like, naturally, this is going to be really good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that was part of where some of these new shows started going downhill a little bit, was they put in Book of Boba Fett because they felt like, okay, we can bring back this character that people love a lot. It's a money grab, right? We can just write a show about him. And then when they're writing it, they're like, oh, what if we brought in Mando here and we start telling more of his story so that we can do different type of episodes and start building out other shows in the Mandalorian season, like what they did with episode 3. And then at that point, the show kind of becomes a little like convoluted a little bit. And it's now each show's not 100% about that person. They're trying to connect them too much, which I think is a mistake. But
it's okay to put blurbs here and there. I mean, it's okay to build the connective tissue, but I feel like when you're devoting more than one episode to another character in another show, you're losing track of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't become about your title character anymore. You're just trying to build the hype for the other TV shows, and I think you lose your story, and I think that becomes very dangerous. Now, I will say the one project I do have expectations and hopes for is Ahsoka, because Dave Filoni has done some of the best Star Wars storytelling, in my opinion, and he is the closest we have ever gotten to a modern George Lucas-esque vision, because he respects the material so much, and I know he's in full control of Ahsoka, and so I do have higher expectations for that story to be good. At the same time, I'm really nervous because Rosario Dawson is still forming her take on the Ahsoka role, and, they're doing live action actors that are not going to be the same as the animated cast, and so there's going to be a bit of an adjustment there for fans like me that have really grown up devoted to the animated series like Rebels. And so like I am apprehensive, like I'm a little nervous going into it, but I think the quality of the writing will be better. At least I hope it will be, because Dave Filoni he's not let me down when he's been in full creative control of projects.
Yeah.
I don't know how much say he gets in The Mandalorian. I think he writes certain episodes, but I'm not entirely sure how much of that is actually him versus Jon Favreau.
I think Jon Favreau wrote most of the Mandalorian.
Yeah,
I think
that's
his
more
idea,
of a...
but he wanted to make it a true to the Star Wars, and he knows, obviously, Dave Filoni from Clone Wars, and so he did it the right way, but he's written, I think he has creative control over Mandalorian.
Yeah, I think that's more of his show than it is Dave's.
And to be honest, I don't think they trusted, if I'm being honest, I don't think they trusted Dave Filoni to do live action initially, so they're like, we'll give you a shot to work on it with Jon Favreau, who has a lot of directing experience, and you can be the consultant and help out. And then you even see this in the documentary, like Jon Favreau's helping Dave Filoni direct some of the episodes or whatever, because it just didn't translate. So I think once Mandalorian went well, then they're like, okay, we can give him more live action stuff. I think they should have given him more creative control from the beginning with all this stuff, and I think he should have done all of Obi-Wan, in my opinion.
That should have been a Dave Filoni project.
Imagine what that story would have looked like if he did the whole thing. It would have been incredible, like from top to bottom. But still good. I just think Dave Filoni he's the new George Lucas and would have been a little bit more cohesive if he had control over all these projects, which is what you need to do at the end of the day. You need to give one person the creative vision and control over it, and then other people can add to it, but you need to make sure that someone has the sign off on everything, because otherwise the story can get a little lost and the creative ideas are just different from what they intended to be at the beginning, similar to what we saw in Last Jedi after Force Awakens and with Rise of Skywalker. And like, it just seemed like a very fragmented sequel trilogy.
It was people pushing and pulling against each other, and it was very obvious that nobody was on the same page. At least with Dave Filoni, if this is really a Dave Filoni-helmed project with Ahsoka, if he's in full creative control and he's the one sitting down and defining the story and where these characters end up, which I expect he would, because Rebels is his baby. You know, he created these characters, and they're very personal to him, much like how Ahsoka was in the Clone Wars. And so because this show is the culmination of all these characters, I do have expectations for it to be good. And it's kind of the one Star Wars show where I am anticipating great quality of writing. And I don't know the way that you personally feel about the Ahsoka show, or because I know that you've seen some bits and pieces of Rebels, but you didn't necessarily see the whole thing. But I don't know what kind of apprehension or excitement you have for that, but like I think that's the one Star Wars project that I'm going to fully go into expecting it to be higher quality in terms of writing, you know, or cohesiveness at least throughout the season, because I think what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of messiness. We're seeing a lot of good ideas thrown around in these TV shows that kind of feel like first drafts of good ideas, but they don't feel like they've been fine-tuned. You know, it's like somebody just went like, oh, here's the first draft and a quarter of my idea. Now let's put it into production, instead of sitting down and actually refining some of the details. Like what the heck they were doing with Reva in Kenobi. Yeah. That's a very messy character, in my opinion. And in my opinion, I don't think she was needed in the show. You could have cut her out and the show would have been probably better for it. But I don't know. I'm getting a little nervous right now, especially after we did our Mando breakdown. I've just had a couple days to sit on it, and I'm like, I am stressing a little bit because it's not looking like it has the cohesiveness of even last season. But I guess we'll see.
I'm always going to try to look at it with a positive outlook, like for the grand scheme of things, and try to go into it and be like, I hope this is great. And if it ends up not being so, I will voice my opinion on it. But yeah, I mean, the idea that Filoni has control over Ahsoka makes me feel better about it, and the story elements better be a little bit more one, and like there needs to be an overarching arc. I also don't like this trend that a lot of TV shows do lately, where it's like there's only 8 episodes or 10 episodes. I don't think that's enough to tell a really robust story. It's tough, and you can. If you're doing a show like Mando right now, which is what, 8 episodes total, and then if you made it 15 episodes, that's a little bit of a different story. Same thing with Obi-Wan, because you're allowed to have an episode or two that's kind of like this Andor episode we had in episode 3. But if you only have 8 episodes, it's like we got to be really efficient. We got to be efficient with the storytelling. If not, it's going to feel rushed. That's just how it's going to be. You want you want to know that there's a start, a middle, and an end to the story that flows together episode to episode. So, I don't know. We'll see. I think it'll be good. I think the way they're going to tie in this with Ahsoka, with Book of Boba Fett, will be good. Also, everything I'm hearing, based on rumors of story points from Ahsoka, it sounds like it's going to be awesome and intense and like a little dark, which I'm for all that. So
Dave Filoni's always been able to balance, I feel like, those tones very well, especially looking what he did. I mean, the Clone Wars season finale is like a testament to Dave Filoni's writing. Like, I think that's some of the best Star Wars media we've ever gotten. I went back and rewatched Shattered, the second to last episode in the Clone Wars, and I'm like, this is just phenomenal. Like, it feels so Star Wars-y. It feels so in the spirit of the prequels, and it's devastating and emotional, and the way they just pull you in with, like, the character relationships. And, like, to me, that's some of the best storytelling Dave Filoni's ever done. And I do believe he can do it again, and he will do it again. It's just with the track record that we've had right now, I have concern, and I hope those concerns they dissipate when I watch the Ahsoka series. Also, the fact that Hayden Christensen is in it, come on, man. I mean, like, that's going to be a grand return. I mean, we saw Hayden as Darth Vader and then kind of as Anakin Skywalker in the Kenobi series, but he's going to be fully fledged Anakin Skywalker in the Ahsoka series. So this is going to be Hayden's grand return. Like, it's going to be him.
Yeah.
You know, because I've heard that we're not only going to get flashbacks in Ahsoka, but we're going to get possibly conversations as with Anakin as the Force Ghost talking to Ahsoka 20 years later after Revenge of the Sith went down. Like, what is that conversation going to be like? So I have high expectations of that as well, especially because it's going to be Rosario Dawson's, you know, defining moment as the Ahsoka character. We've gotten glimpses of her, but she hasn't really given us a wide range of things that she can do as Ahsoka. So I'm interested to see how she's going to play that dynamic, and especially in regard to Hayden Christensen. So there's just a lot there
Yeah.
that in my mind I'm mentally preparing for.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we will wait with great interest in how it all turns out. I'm excited.
We will watch his career with great interest.
Only a couple months left. But let's jump into the episode, Bad Batch. This was a good episode called Tipping Point. This is episode 15, right?
14. I think next week's 15 and 16.
All right, episode 14. This one was written by Jennifer Corbett, Dave Filoni, directed by Saul Ruiz. I don't know how to say that. Sorry if I'm butchering the name. The official description is new information has our heroes taking on a dangerous mission. Don't know that that's the best description, but that's okay. Let's jump in. So we start off. Episode opens up with 3 dissident former clones, including hot, hunky, succulent Hauser. Our boy is back.
What a surprise. Hi.
Yeah, we've been
What
wondering
a delight. What a delight. I mean, he comes in the frame and I was like, I know that haircut anywhere. That's the hottest clone of all time.
I was confused at first. I don't know if you saw my reaction. I was confused because it looked like he had gray hair. I thought it was like a gray-haired clone, but I'm like, I do recognize
Okay, that's
that
fair,
haircut.
yeah. It did. The lighting made it look a little weird.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's Hauser. Oh, is it? I was like, oh, he's an old Hauser. I don't know. Either way, they're getting escorted by stormtroopers under the command of Captain Pierce. I like this scene. This is interesting. The darkness of it. I thought it was a good opening to the episode. Like very cinematic feeling, very big TV show type movie feeling, which I thought was well done. They get on the ship. They're reaching. They get into hyperspace, or they get into the spaceship. Before they can get into hyperspace, they're leaving the planet. They get attacked by a starship led by clones Gregor and Echo, who are disabling the cruiser's hyperdrive and defenses on a little rescue mission. Very high energy scene to start this episode off, which I thought was
so good.
Fantastic. After the weapon system is disabled, Echo and Nemec lead a boarding party above the smaller ship.
Wait, is that clone's name Nemec?
Yes.
Like the guy from Andor?
Oh, yeah, I guess. Nemec? Nemec? Yeah. Nemec?
I think it's like Nemec with a C and then Nemec with a K in Andor.
Oh.
That's
Creative.
really funny. At least it's not Tim with 2 M's.
Hey, guys, it's Jim
Oh, guys,
with 2 M's.
it's
Jim
Tim.
and Tim.
That was so stupid.
So they attach the starship to the cruiser. Cool boarding scene here as they get on. They're doing their rescue mission.
Ralph McQuarrie troopers, by the way.
Yep, Ralph McQuarrie troopers, they're getting stunned, which I hate this. I just shoot them. I don't know why they're stunning them. These are bad guys. Shoot them. They're
conscripted soldiers. They're not clones. They're conscripted soldiers, correct?
Yeah, I think it's just Disney being like, well, we can't kill people anymore. Like, but
Crosshair straight up murders people.
No, I know, but they're good guys. They have to be nice.
Oh,
I don't like that. That's just the feeling I get. I'm like, I don't get why they're stunning them. For the clones, it kind of makes sense because you're like, all right, they're their brothers. That's you, in a different form. I guess I kind of get that, but it just, I don't know. Stunning is just lame. I don't know why we're doing that. So they throw Gregor throws a grenade, electrocutes the guys. Cool escape scene here overall. They are telling him to delete the data bank from the ship. Echo's trying to revive it after they take the ship. Nemec is interrogating Pierce, the commander, at gunpoint, and this guy commits suicide with one of those electroshock pills. Classic. I don't know. You shocking everyone else. I don't know why you didn't shock this guy at first, and you could have gotten information out of him later, but hey, whatever. Bless you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Reinforcements arrive. High tension built here as they're trying to extract the data and escape. They detach the main ship. They are getting shot at by these first generation TIE fighters. I thought that was pretty cool. They attach the ship back to the main one and flee into hyperspace. Very good opening scene here overall. I thought it was excellent. This is the kind of stuff I wanted earlier on in the season with more of these episodes. I thought it was just really well done.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said how cinematic it was, because when I was watching it, I just remembered being like thinking, I'm like, I could see myself sitting in a theater watching this. Like, this just feels like a very Star Wars-y opening. It feels like the opening to a brand new Star Wars film. And I was really engaged, super excited. I thought the camera direction was really fun. Obviously, like the environments, the animation team's just been crushing it this season. I mean, you really feel like you're there. They really do a great job of immersing you where these characters are, and I'm just gonna constantly praise that because it's so impressive to me. But it just felt like classic Star Wars, like true unapologetic Star Wars opening. And I agree with you, I do kind of wish that the rest of the season had this same energy. I keep saying this, like, I just want a show on Rex and Echo and what they're doing with the clones. I am so interested in that subplot, almost more so than what the Bad Batch is doing. Because it seems to be where most of the action is happening. Is the Bad Batch is just going at the moment, we're walking through the galaxy and we're trying to find our place, and does this work? No, not really. Oh, Omega's a child and she needs a secure place to grow up. Whereas with Rex and Echo, it's like, we are working with the senators, Bail Organa and Senator Chuchi underground to liberate these clones and get them off on planets where they can be safe, and the Empire is using clones to drain their blood or whatever so they can test out for new cloning. Like, it just has a more interesting subplot to me.
Yeah.
And every time they bring back the subplot with Rex or Echo, it's just, I find myself wanting that show more than the Bad Batch.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you to a degree. I think this was like really highlighted the excitement of Star Wars, and this is what I want more of. You know, we don't need to stray away from the other stuff too much. It was very well done, very Star Wars-y. I agree with you. It felt like the beginning of a new Star Wars movie. And, I'd like more of it overall. I think it was just a compact, exciting, well-done scene.
I mean, do you think that you'd like to see a show on that?
Yeah, I'd watch a show on that. That'd be cool. Like a underground clone railroad logistics show.
Totally. It just seems way more entertaining to me at the moment.
Yeah, and we got more of that last season, I think, like the transition of like what happens in between Order 66 and A New Hope, and I was hoping for more of that this season. We haven't really gotten as much of that juicy information. We've gotten some of it, but like that's kind of part of it. Like, what happened to the clones? Answer that question more, you know? We get to Mount Tantus. 2 stormtroopers have Crosshair, and they put him into one of these little cells, these like whatever detention cell things, and our boy Dr. Hemlock walks in, aka the dopest haircut of all time guy, with, by the way, this actor, I keep forgetting his name, it's McPoyle from Always Sunny in Philadelphia. God, what's his name? Sorry, I got to look this up real quick because it's going to drive me nuts. Jimmy something. Dr. Hemlock, voice actor, Star Wars. Sorry, Jimmy Simpson. That's it. I keep reading his name. Jimmy Simpson. I think he's so well cast in this role as Dr. Hemlock. Very creepy, a bit understated in the way he does it. I think it's perfect. He plays the voice perfectly. He's a very good
character
bad guy voice.
Commands a room when he walks into it.
Yeah, totally.
And he's only been in what, 2 episodes?
Yeah, no, 3.
He's
3, I think.
2 or 3 episodes, but he still commands interest and intrigue. And I think that the fandom's been pretty positive toward him too, where they're like, this is just an interesting character because, like you said, he's very understated. He's not like I'm an evil bad guy, like in your face, and I'm an Imperial. He's like creepy and weird and is fascinated with his work and just makes for a really cool, unique antagonist because he's not overstated.
He does a really good job. Very interesting.
Also, his voice acting is good. His voice acting was like a chill creepy.
Would love to see him in live action someday. Crosshair asks why he's here. He says he's not there for shooting his commanding officer. He thinks it shows initiative. Creepy. Nice line there. He just wants to know where the Bad Batch is. We knew it. That's what they were after all along. They're after Omega. Crosshair picks up on this pretty quickly. He's like, oh, you're looking for Omega. They're not going to give her up that easy. He's just saying, look, we'll let you go if you just help us find where they are. I was going to say he doesn't really know where they are. So they restrain him and they bring in the interrogation unit. Interesting
got
time here because like I don't. Does he actually know? Does he actually not know where they are? I mean, how would he really be able to help
yeah,
them?
that's my question. I don't know because the whole thing was that Crosshair lied to the Empire about the Bad Batch. So they assumed that they died on Camino. So how do they know that they're alive? I mean, even Nala Se and Lama Su wouldn't know that the Bad Batch is alive.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
This
mean,
was weird to me.
based
I
off
thought they
what
were
we
gonna
know
bring it
from
up.
last season.
I thought they were going to bring it up as like, oh, we know you know. But no, they were
Yeah.
just like, where are they? And I'm like, but wait, wasn't this whole thing predicated? Like, they even talk about it earlier in the season with Peter Pumpkin. He's like, oh, I'm the only one who knows they're alive. So what happened there? I don't know.
Did
I mean,
Peter
they made a
Pumpkin know
point.
they were alive?
Yeah, remember? They find out that they're still alive, and he kills that other clone guy who tells him. He's like, hey, something about Clone Force 99, and he shoots him because he doesn't want Tarkin to know because that means he failed his job.
Oh, yeah. You're totally right. So he does find out about it, but then does the rest of the Empire know? They never really addressed that.
That's what I mean. I don't know. So, like, it's all predicated on this thing that Peter Pumpkin, Admiral Rampart, knew this, and then he was trying to keep it away from everyone else, and he died with him or went to jail with him when he got put to jail. So then all of a sudden the Empire knows, even though he was supposed to be the only one who knew. That's why he killed the guy in the first place, because he didn't
Yeah,
want to
that
tell
doesn't make
Tarkin.
any sense.
So I was confused by that. Also, could Crosshair even really help? I don't know. I guess maybe like he knows the way they think, so maybe that.
Yeah,
would
he
help
knows their
out, but
tactics.
Either way, we know that he's not willing to help. We see he's like, no, I'm not going to, which is an interesting character choice.
Well, also he has their communication codes or whatever because he did know how to reach them. So in that way, he could have helped them. But
That's true. That's true.
also,
He knows
Mayday
that
must have really done a number on Crosshair to make Crosshair react in this way.
I know. He's really anti-Empire now. He's not a big fan. They are interrupted during the interrogation units, saying something about how transport ships were attacked while departing Balmora. Interesting planet name here, Balmora. I don't know. There's probably nothing to this, but it just reminds me of Balmoral Castle from the UK. That's where the Queen like vacations.
Maybe that's where the Empire vacations.
I don't know. Maybe someone kind of slipped that in there. It's like maybe this is an idea to signify that the Queen is evil or something. I don't know, but I just thought it was an interesting. It sounded like that, like Balmoral, Balmora. I mean, they're very similar in name. Probably no connection there, but that's what my brain went to because I have a British wife, and this is the kind of stuff I think about.
Good connections, making those connections.
Good connection. So Hemlock leaves to go supervise, and leaves. Sorry, Hemlock leaves and leaves this New Zealand chick to supervise the interrogation. She weirdly sounds like Omega. I don't know why.
Yeah, she's also. I mean, is she also from Camino?
Must be. Yeah, I guess. I just think that's interesting. She has that same accent. Anyways, we cut to Coruscant. Echo and Gregor bring Hauser and his men. Where they're rendezvousing with Senator Chuchi, where they're just talking about their plans, where they were being taken. They're asking the clones, why were you being imprisoned? Where were you going? Hauser doesn't really know where they were being sent, but they were just being transferred off-world in rotations, and we don't really know why. What do we think happened? So what do we think happened with Hauser then? Because was he arrested in season 1?
Yes, he was.
Okay.
He was. At the end of the 2-part episode, he gave like this eloquent speech to the clones, and he's like, hey, what the hell are we doing? And then they all got arrested.
That's right. Okay. I remember now. Chuchi says they must find out where the ship was headed. Echo replies they had some heavily encrypted information that they can crack. Chuchi says she'll take care of things on Coruscant and tell Echo to be careful. Back at Mount Tantus.
Love Chuchi.
We love
her.
Senator Chuchi.
Senator Chuchi. Also, I would like to note that she did get left with like the hottest clone of the Republic. So,
Hauser.
I mean, she should jump on that. I mean, I am just saying, men like that, they don't come off of trees, and she should take her shot.
We could call
that
him
is
Chooser.
the prettiest clone.
Hauchi.
What?
Hauchi or
Hauchi. Chooser. Those are both really funny ship names. Chooser.
I'm good at it. What can I
Hauchi.
say? I come up with them like that.
I mean, that's a good ship. Get on that, fan artists.
Back at Mount Tanta's car suspends the interrogation. The stormtroopers are like, hey, we're supposed to continue. What are you doing? Hemlock told us to keep going.
What does this device do, by the way?
We can't kill him. I don't know. It injects you with something. I don't know. Someone explained it to me on my reaction video. I still don't really get it. It's like supposed to be painful, but also make you tell the truth. I don't know.
Like truth serum or something? That's what I thought it was going to be, but it just seems to make people dizzy and woozy.
Yeah, it makes you feel like poopy. So a car is like, we can't get any information out of him if he's dead. So she's like, secure his restraints. But Crosshair? I'm getting my wires crossed. There's so many clones to talk about. Crosshair pulls a sneaky move, shoots the stormtroopers. He's not afraid to shoot him. He doesn't put it on stun. He'll just shoot him. And,
except for her.
Yeah, except for her. So he tells her to let him free. And then she's like, you're not going to be able to get very far. So he demands her access card. She's like, you're not going to be able to escape. And then he stuns her. I would have just shot her. She seems valuable, and it would have hurt the Empire way more if he would have killed her. But hey, that's just me.
Maybe Disney was also like, you can't shoot a woman in this show.
No, I think it was more like, we need her character later. Like, I don't know.
It's just interesting how like the stunning versus the shooting is just never consistent.
No.
Like sometimes they'll kill other clones, and then other times they're like, just stun them. It's whatever. It's fine. But it would have been way more convenient to just let her die.
And also a more ballsy move on their part. Like that's
totally
darker. Which this is kind of a dark episode, anyways. So he makes his way through the corridor, shoots two stormtroopers. He's very out of his wits here. You can see he misses a couple shots. Crosshair never misses, but he's not 100% on his game. He also chose the most conspicuous way to escape. Just start shooting immediately. I don't know why he didn't just get in the stormtroopers close. People on my comment section on my reaction video were like, oh, well, that would take too long, or people would see him stumbling around. I'm like, hey, that's more sneaky than just starting blasting everywhere and drawing all the attention to yourself.
Yeah,
but hey.
I have to agree.
So he is making as much noise as humanly possible, and gets to a terminal and uses the access card to send a transmission. I thought to the Bad Batch talking about Plan 88, he sends kind of an encrypted message. I thought there was some interesting moments here, like him missing. Great creative choice. Him, when he has the access card, he's having trouble putting it in. Like, you could have just as easily just made him put the access card in and start talking. But it's like, it's the attention to detail here that I'm noticing. That's good. They had to animate him not able to get the card in immediately because he's not totally with it right now, which I thought was a cool creative choice. As he's sending the transmission, they seal the room and gas him. We see Dr. Hemlock walk in and tells him about this toxin that he made that he has immunity to, but not Crosshair. Dun dun dun. They capture Crosshair again. But interesting choice here. What did you think of this? Crosshair, maybe he wasn't trying to escape in the first place. Maybe what he was just trying to do was get to the terminal to warn his team.
I don't think his intention was ever to escape. I think it was to just warn them.
Interesting.
Also, he was. Yeah, it is interesting. I just wish that we've had. Well, maybe I'll just save my thoughts until the very end of the episode because it's not super applicable here. But I thought in particular, like the scene where Dr. Hemlock comes in and talks to him as Crosshair is passing out. He's like, oh, I've built an immunity to this. I had two thoughts. I was like, okay, what are you, Dr. Hemlock? And what exactly does your research consist of? Because this is really getting weird. And I want to learn more of this guy's backstory. Like you said earlier, he's so understated, but there's so much mystery and intrigue behind him that, especially in this scene, I was like, who is this guy? And what kind of research has he been doing? And more importantly, what is he trying to accomplish with the clones? Because then we later learn that clones get sent to him for whatever purpose, and he just experiments on them, which is so weird. Which is something I would like to dig into later, but I appreciated that sequence, and I also really liked the voice modulation that they did on Hemlock's voice as Crosshair was passing out.
Really cool sound design there with like the reverse voice and the echo and the reverb. Very cool. Next scene on Pabu. Life has returned to normal. We see the mayor guy talking to Hunter.
Fat Mace Windu.
Fat Mace Windu. They're talking, and he's like, hey, maybe have you given any thought to staying or whatever? We see Wrecker helping, and he's kind of thriving in this environment, and we see Tech giving Omega flying lessons on the Marauder, which was also a very cinematic-esque type scene here.
Great sequence. Yeah. I really liked that a lot. I thought the camera angles were fun. I thought Tech's little screams of like anguish were super great from D. Bradley Baker. I thought that was some super fun voice acting. And like that's the kind of character bonding I'm talking about that I want to see more of this season.
Well, this probably made you nervous. I bet this made you nervous, this scene.
It's just they're putting too much focus on him. Now it kind of feels like maybe a little bit more intentional than just oh hey, we need to give Tech some development. It just feels like they've been giving a lot to him. And honestly, we could go into the finale and everything could be fine. And quite frankly, I think people would lose their minds if Tech was killed off. I really don't think that would sit well with anybody. So I'm not sitting here saying that I think he's going to die. I'm just saying that it's very interesting that you guys are going way overboard in this development, which is great for the character, but sometimes it can be cause for concern. So, but I, like, in general, I loved this sequence. I thought it was so cute. It endears you to the characters. And then from a cinematography standpoint, it felt like I was sitting in a movie theater watching a super fun Star Wars sequence. I think there were a lot of moments like that in this episode.
I agree. I felt the exact same way. As they're doing the flying lessons, they receive a transmission from Echo. Omega's obviously very happy to hear from him. They challenge her to a race to the landing zone, and they race back. Let's see. Oh, so then they tell Tech. Echo tells Tech, "Hey, we need help with decrypting these messages. Whatever. We need to know why this ship was transporting the prisoners, and why." Mm-hmm. Next scene, we're on the Mount Tantus again, and Dr. Hemlock is talking to one of my favorite bad guys, Governor Tarkin. We have him back. I love the voice actor. Whoever does Tarkin does an excellent job. Just very,
Steven
very
Stanton.
Thank you, Steven Stanton. With the rolling R's.
He's so
rolling
good
R's.
at it.
Yeah.
He's so good at it. It's ridiculous. I have a autograph from him. I got it like 5 or 6 years ago. I can't remember what the context was. I think I won it off of a separate podcast like 5 or 6 years ago. I can't remember. Anyway, I have an autograph from him, which is really cool. But he is one of the most versatile voice actors, I think, in the Clone Wars. He's done a lot of various voices throughout that series. But my favorite has been Tarkin because he does it to such a degree that kind of sounds like a caricature of Tarkin, but it's so perfect because it's so overdone.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, like, it just adds to the defining factor of the character. So it's always great to have him back in.
Yeah, we love Tarkin. He's great. I love having him back in the show. Also, fun fact about Governor Tarkin. His first name is Will Huff.
Yeah, I did know that, actually. I did know that.
Hilarious. His name is Will Huff.
Now,
Huff
what do you
Tarkin.
prefer, that or Sheev Palpatine?
Dude, Sheev is a badass name. Sheev?
Sheev Palpatine? I mean, by the way, that sounds perfect. Like, if you were to guess, I don't know if anybody could guess Palpatine's first name, but Sheev, weirdly, is like so on par, so perfect, rolls off the tongue perfectly.
Sheev Palpatine.
Sheev Palpatine.
Governor Tarkin is trying to be, not Tarkin. Hemlock is trying to reassure Tarkin that the loss of the ship is not going to compromise the facility. Tarkin's a little pissed. He disagrees. They're concerned about how the ship was targeted. Hemlock warns that eliminating the clones won't root out the problem, but he says, I can find other ways to deal with them. So Tarkin
so what does that mean?
Tarkin tells Hemlock to give him a briefing at their upcoming like Imperial conference summit or whatever, which I thought was funny. He's like, give me your briefing at the summit, which I just picture as like a big conference at like a Marriott that they have in like a conference room.
An Imperial Marriott.
I don't know what that means. I think it just means Hemlock is scary and a dick. Does mean
well, I mean, like, what kind of experiments does he do? Does he take their blood to examine it for more cloning purposes? Like, what's the whole...
No, I think he's testing his gases and stuff on them. Like that gas that he had. He's doing like Nazi-esque experiments. Like,
that's a really good theory and super creepy.
Yeah. He's doing human type experiments on him. Not a good guy. Not a good guy. We go to Pabu. Echo asks Hunter if he and the other clones plan to stay on the island. As we see Hunter Wrecker playing with Omega and her little friend. Hunter's like, hey, it might be a good idea. I don't know. How have you been? What's your goal here? Like, what are you going to do this forever? Like, you're never going to win against the Empire. They have an interesting piece of dialogue here. Echo seems very determined to keep helping his fellow brothers, and we get a beeping thing from Tech saying to come back to the ship. He has decoded the stuff, and aboard the Marauder, we find out that the Imperial transport was assigned to the Advanced Science Division. Hunter's aware of the unit. It says it's a clandestine operation without records in its location or purpose. They find out about Royce Hemlock, who was expelled. We find out he was expelled from the Republic Science Corps for his unauthorized and unorthodox experiments, which I think further confirms my theory that he's performing unethical experiments on people and things to develop weaponry and maybe neurotoxins and other things like that.
That's a great theory, and that's probably exactly what it is, especially after that gas chamber thing, thing that he was doing in that room where he could inhale it. Yeah. So that completely adds up.
Hemlock's
great character.
Very good character.
Dr. Royce Hemlock.
Royce, great name too. I love his name. Omega asks why they were transferring clone prisoners to them. Tech says he doesn't know, but he does know that Crosshair was included in the prisoners. They're all surprised, obviously. They're like, hey, did he really turn against the Empire? Crazy. How sure are you? Tech's pretty sure. And then he made him, seeing this, made him check their old channels, which saw the message that Crosshair had sent out. Plan 88, the Seeker. Tech thinks Crosshair's warning them, and Hunter thinks it might be a trap, which isn't a crazy assumption to have. He's tried to get them before. Valid concern to have here. We go back to Wayland and Mount Tantus, whatever it's called. Crosshair's fastened to the operating table. Hemlock and Carr enter the theater in the presence of stormtroopers. He says, "You're only going to leave this facility if I allow you to." Creepy line here. He extends his offer to Crosshair one last time. He's being pretty lenient. He really wants Omega, and he knows Crosshair is a big key to getting them. Crosshair will not budge. He's silent. And Crosshair just gives him a defiant stare. He orders Carr. Hemlock orders Carr to do the interrogation drug thingy and turn it up. And it's kind of a rough scene to watch here as Crosshair squirming in agony as Hemlock smiles and Carr watches. And that is the end of the episode. A dark scene to end on.
Very much so. Which begs the question, it's like, I don't really think that these shows necessarily are geared towards like kids. Like, I think these shows are quickly taking on, and even like the Clone Wars. I mean, there are some episodes that are more child-friendly than others, but I don't believe it's just for kids. I think it's more like I think a 14-year-old would enjoy this show way more than a kid anywhere from between 6 and 11. Maybe a 12-year-old would, but I do think that the age range is a little higher for things like this, especially because like Crosshair straight up murders people in the show. And they had like the bloodshots in the snow with Mayday and all that kind of stuff. So I am not a person who is of the opinion that these shows are specifically geared towards children, although some children might enjoy them. I think they're way more mature in tone.
Well, here's my issue with that then. If you're going to make it more mature in tone, commit to that. Commit to one or the other. Don't be both. Commit to what the show is and make it about that. For example, the Pabu episode or the episode with Gunji or whatever. I agree with you that overall it does have some adult themes to it, but then there's some of these episodes that are just like Saturday morning cartoons, and I'm like, okay, which one are we? Let's pick a lane, because the show's going to be infinitely more interesting if you pick a lane. If you pick these dark themes, like this last episode was pretty dark. If the show's going to be so much more interesting if you make the whole thing in that same tone and you take more risks and you're more daring with what you do, like having Crosshair shoot Dr. Carr, not stun her, like doing more stuff like that. That's what cements your believability into the show and your commitment and your enjoyment of the show, is being able to follow along with the cohesive story, but then also a tone to it. And I just think the tone has kind of been all over the place for this season specifically.
That's fair. At the same time, I think that there is a delicate balance of, having the mature themes, but also the hopefulness of Star Wars, and maybe a bit of that campiness as well, because the campiness does add to the charm of the original trilogy, say, for example. Because the original trilogy, I wouldn't necessarily describe as if we're going to pick an example, I don't think anybody would necessarily describe it as this dark thing. I mean, there are some moments in there that can get intense. There are a couple intense moments in there, especially like for the 70s, the late 70s at least. But I don't know if anyone would necessarily describe Star Wars as this dark and violent thing. You know, the darkest it's gotten so far is Andor. You know, Andor just fully leaned into that more violent, darker, mature tone, and I think some people really loved it, and then some people didn't really like it. But I will not disagree with you where in Bad Batch it seems to constantly jump between different vibes. Like the hijinksy adventures are very much like super casual, and they don't necessarily require intense viewing, whereas when you have episodes like this or the mid-season finale or the solitary clone, they do capture your attention a bit more. You're more involved, and you care a little bit more about the characters, and I think the darker tone does play a part in that.
I'm not saying, let me clarify, I'm not saying the whole thing needs to be dark. I'm saying you need to commit to being either more adult focused or more children focused. But also, I would argue Revenge of the Sith was the darkest we ever saw Star Wars. I think it's much darker than Andor. And like that's the vibe I'm saying. Maybe go for it. The campiness I'm all for. I'm not saying don't do the campiness. I'm saying like this was a very Star Warsy episode. There's campiness in that first scene of them getting the ship and the cinematics of it and the dialogue there. This was a very Star Wars episode in my opinion. I just think some of these like offshoot adventure things, I'm not interested in seeing that. Tell me a full story, whether it's dark or not. Like, give me a full arc of like a full season arc of like a story from start to finish. That each episode kind of is connected more with the last, and I don't think that was done as well as it could have been done this season.
Okay, so then let me clarify myself, because you brought up a really good example, which is Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, Revenge of the Sith has a lot of dark tones to it, especially like Anakin going into the Jedi Temple and killing all the kids. Like, that is really intense stuff, or Obi-Wan leaving him on the planet to burn to a crisp. Like, that is not something I would allow my 12-year-old son or daughter to see, because that's just, that's too much. I think Andor is more mature in the sense where it's like they had more implied like sexual relationships in that show, and you know, and the characters swore a little bit more, but that to me is almost like a different tone of mature than what we see in Revenge of the Sith, which is a little bit more different than what we saw in this particular Bad Batch episode. Do you get what I'm saying? And I do agree with you with what you just said. You know, having the campy moments, but having the general overtone be a little bit more intense. I do get what you're saying there, and I think Revenge of the Sith is a great example of that. And that, to me, the quality of what we got in Revenge of the Sith in terms of like the overall tone and what was happening to the characters in that world, that's something that I prefer. I like Revenge of the Sith is a very, very good example of that. I think the Clone Wars handled that pretty well. You know, again, the 4-part finale of the Clone Wars. That's really intense stuff. Yeah. That's intense, but it has the campiness and the fun incorporated into it. And I don't think you're wrong when you say consistency in terms of that, you know, because it does keep you more engaged at the end of the day with what's going on. But I digress.
I would agree with you. Overall, I mean, let's give our thoughts on the episode. I thought this was really good. Another really strong episode for this season. I thought it was very cohesive overall. It tells a nice story, was concise. Love Dr. Hemlock. I think he's a great character. Crosshair's development has been interesting. We haven't had a ton of him this season, but the episodes we have had him in have been really good. And so for me, this was probably like an 8-1.
Let me think. I would say, I'd say it'd probably be like an 8.3 or an 8.4. It's definitely up there with the strongest episodes of the season, especially because, you know, and I rank it that way because it sticks to the overarching story a bit more. The Star Wars vibes are just immaculate, very engaging throughout, and I think it sets up the season finale quite nicely. A question for you is how do you think they're going to cap this off? I mean, we're going into the season finale next week. I mean, what do you think? Where do you think we're headed? How do you think that they're going to close this off? Because they're still
obviously going to go after Omega, and I think they're going to have to come together with the other clones, Echo and Gregor and Rex, to ensure that doesn't happen. Or maybe she gets taken. Maybe that's what happens at the end of the season. I think they're going to get the information from Crosshair one way or another, or actually not from Crosshair necessarily, Sid. I think that's where they're going to get their information from.
Yep.
And then Crosshair might do something to save them, either sacrificing himself or, I don't know, redeeming himself somehow.
Do you think they'd really kill him?
It wouldn't surprise me. I don't think they will, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you. Now, in general, do you think somebody's going to die?
No.
No. Why?
I don't know. I just because they're stunning, the stormtroopers. Like that's honestly kind of what I'm basing it off of. They're not being like decisive enough or like final enough with their decisions, and like the creative decision to stun these guys who are nobodies. That tells me they're like, all right, well, we're not going to have a final death of somebody because what if we want to bring him back or something? Which also, by the way, Star Wars does that all the time. So maybe they will come kill someone and they'll be resurrected somehow. I don't know how many times.
I mean, if somebody were to go, it would probably most likely be Echo. I really, really believe that if somebody was going to die, it would be Echo. But then again, like, let's just say that they kill him, right? And then they bring him back. That's already 2 times that Echo's died and then been brought back. So I don't know how long they're going to do this.
I don't know if they'll do it this episode or next, but something happens to him. He's obviously not with Rex for the long
He's not
term.
with Rex, yeah. That's the biggest thing, especially because we're seeing clones that are with Rex. Like, Gregor is with Rex and Rebels. Wolf is with Rex and Rebels. And by the way, where's Cody?
Yeah.
What happened to Cody? I mean, like, that was a great plot thread that they could have incorporated throughout the season.
They might.
And they just dropped
2 episodes
it.
left. He might come back in these last 2 episodes.
I mean,
maybe he'll come back.
It's very
somehow.
likely. It's very likely, but I do think that there was a missed opportunity there to have that be an underlying thread throughout the season, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, did he talk to her? That also goes back to my point. I'm more interested to see how Rex is helping these other clones than necessarily, like, watching the Bad Batch. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some great story elements in the Bad Batch that I love to see, but when they bring in the Rex and Echo subplot, when they leave, I'm more like, no, wait, stop, let me go with you. Like, I want to see what you're doing. I want to know how you help Cody. How did you help Wolf? What's Echo's part in this? What kind of clones are they meeting up with? And we get bits and pieces, but I just want more of that. And every time they're introduced and then they leave the show, I'm just like, I want more of that. I want to follow them into what they're doing. So, I mean, as far as the season 2 finale goes, I think season 3 is absolutely happening. I would be shocked if it wasn't. I have to agree with you. I don't think they're necessarily going to kill anybody. If I had to pick somebody, I'd have to say it was going to be Echo. Second to that would probably be Tech, but I'm really having a hard time that they would do that, especially because I don't think that they have the earned. I don't think they have the earned development to kill anybody yet. Does that make sense?
Kill Crosshair?
There's potential there for it, but I think I don't know because it's complicated. On the one hand, if that happened, I know that there are some fans that would just rise from the flames and absolutely lose their minds over that. At the same time, a lot of Star Wars character stories do end in redemption, which can also lead to a sacrificial death. And that, honestly, that's not really out of Crosshair's character to do that. But my instincts are just telling me I don't think anybody's going to die. Mostly because I don't think that they've earned it.
Yeah. Well, guys, leave your comments below. Let us know what you think what's going to happen in these final 2 episodes. I think they're going to be packed. I think they've been holding a lot of the cards. They have to bring back a lot of stuff, the Cody stuff, more of the Rex stuff.
Clone Rebellion, maybe.
Clone Rebellion, the Zillow Beast stuff with Scorch and like what was going on there. They might have like reveal some kind of grand plans of what they're working on with Dr. Hemlock, and maybe he's working for the Emperor somehow. I don't know. But I think they have a lot of stuff that Omega, that whole stuff. So they've been holding a lot back, and I think they're going to reveal a lot in the final 2 episodes. So guys, write your comments below. Tell us what your theories are, or write us in at anotherstarwarspod@gmail.com. We love reading those. And while we're on that topic, let's go to our community page. We didn't go there last episode.
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to personally apologize to our followers. Our Mandalorian episode, we had some technical difficulties when we were recording that because the lovely people over at Xfinity decided to cut out the Wi-Fi when I was recording with Matt, and I was not made aware of this. So I got cut off the second half of that episode, so I apologize for that. That was a
They forgive you.
unexpected technical difficulty, which I'm still kind of angry about thinking about it. But it's okay. It's life. It happens. Just sorry about that in advance.
Onwards and upwards. Kalatar writes, after the Calm Before the Storm episodes, it was time for the It's All Coming Together episode. It's all coming together. It was a very juicy one. We checked in with a bunch of characters that we haven't seen in a while, Hauser, yay, and things are gearing up for Hunter and Co. and Crosshair to meet again. Crosshair's tribulations are painful to watch, but a logical follow-up to next episode. Oh, and Omega is totally getting set up to be an ace pilot character eventually.
Possibly. Yes.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Big So's writes, amazing episode. Besides the fillers, this season was a banger. I agree. There was a lot of really solid episodes, but I think too many filler ones in my opinion, or too many just okay,
casual.
Yeah, casual. Yeah. Red Ring writes, what a banger, sick episode. Reese Hart writes, I loved the episode, although I find it funny the juxtaposition of what's been going on. We got Rex, Echo, and Gregor putting their lives on the line to rescue their brothers. Crosshairs being tortured relentlessly, and then you have the Bad Batch relaxing on an island having a grand old time. That's pretty funny.
That's so true, though. That's so accurate, though.
Yeah. Brandon writes, great episode. Pat and the Cats, great name, wrote meh. Edward the Giant wrote, if the last episode was a calm before the storm, I call this the tremor that brings up an avalanche. Wow. Love these thoughts, guys. Tell us what you guys think what's going to happen in these next 2 episodes in the comments. We're interested to see what you guys think is going to happen, and we'll talk about them on the show next week. But that is it for this episode. We've breezed through this season so far. Only 2 episodes left, and then we're done, and we can just focus on the last few episodes of Mandalorian. And then we can focus on some other videos that aren't reactions.
That are not eating up our entire schedule. It should be good. Drop your theories, guys. Let us know what you think the season finale is headed. I truly think that season 3 announcement is going to be the first thing at Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
So I don't think their story's done.
No, I don't think so either. And we reported on this in our last episode, the new Star Wars news. Bad Batch Season 3 is being in the works, as well as Tales of the Jedi Season 2 might be in the works, which I would be so hyped for. But yeah, guys, you know the drill. Like, subscribe if you enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys are returning, if you're new, thank you for joining us too. We have fun on this show. This is what we do. We talk, we have theories, and we make fun of each other, and we make fun of the show sometimes. But it's all in good fun. We have a good time. So if you guys want to keep tuning in, make sure to click the notification bell, like, subscribe, leave a comment, share with your friends, leave us good reviews on Apple and Spotify and all those places, because there's a lot more Star Wars content to come from us. But apparently Melissa's bored with it, so that's why you're yawning over there.
I'm just very cold. It's very cold in this space, and it makes me yawn and sleepy and my nose run.
Okay. But that's it, guys. Thanks for joining this week. We'll see you next week for our Mandalorian breakdown and reaction, as well as our finale Bad Batch breakdown and reaction. So you guys don't want to miss that. Let's see you guys next week for another Star Wars podcast. See you later. Bye.